Welcome back to another episode of Adventures in Business. This is your co-host, Amy Zander with ZD Media. And as always, I'm with the lovely Lisa Fisher. How are you doing today, Lisa?
I'm doing fabulous, Amy. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Been out and about, beating the heat, all that good stuff. A fun thing I did recently was on Father's Day, we went to the Ari Olds Museum. And we went with my husband and my dad and my father-in-law. And then our daughter, Anna. So that was really fun. I had never been there before. So it was really, really cool. It's not real big, but so many cool cars, and having the mechanics and everything in our family, they really liked that. So it was fun. We got to take pictures in cool cars, and that was good.
It is a really cool place. If you've not been, you need to go there. And I've been to events there too, so it's been really cool. But I actually was on the river trail, the Lansing River Trail, and that is so cool because it was like after the art path opened up. So there's all this awesome stuff to look at, and then you can stop at Lansing Shuffle and grab a bite to eat or a cocktail. But man, that trail goes forever. And we got on it in in Old Town at the Fish Ladder, and then we walked all the way to Potter's Park and back. But man,
Wow. Yeah.
that's a phenomenal trail system. So
Yeah. The art path makes it pretty cool too. Yeah.
yes.
What about you, Nick? You done something fun?
Oh, there's so many fun things to do here in Lansing. I guess the one that really surprised me recently is I went over to the Delta Township pickleball courts.
Yes.
Oh my God. You guys pickleball?
I do. Yeah. I do play
My
pickleball.
mom loves pickleball. I had no idea it was that popular here in Delta Township, but there was so many people out there. It was like Sunday at 10 a.m. and there's all these people out there.
Yeah.
Full courts.
Are you talking about the Grand Woods Park? Is that where you were? Like north of Horrocks?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
packed.
Yep. Nice. Cool. So do you play? Yeah. Do you play, or did you just go with your mom?
My mother and stepfather absolutely love it, so they dragged me out there. And it happened to be my stepdad's birthday, so I couldn't say no. And it was right in my backyard. So
right.
I got too many other hobbies right now. Maybe when I get older.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, you've heard his voice. Lisa, tell us who we have today on our show.
Mr. Nick Nauta is a Lansing fee-only financial planner. Shotwell Rutter Baer provides financial planning and investment management through a strategic, reliable blueprint to help clients organize, grow, and protect their assets through life's transitions. As a fee-only fiduciary and independent financial advisor, Nick Nauta is never paid a commission of any kind and has a legal obligation to provide unbiased, trustworthy financial advice. So welcome, Nick. We're glad to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be there. Such a professional introduction. I don't know who could have possibly come up with that.
Sometimes we need that professional to write our bios. Trust me.
Yes. Indeed.
Yeah, we should say too that Shotwell Rutter Baer was our most recent sponsor for our podcast, and they Nick and David Shotwell host a weekly podcast about finance called Kitchen Table Finance.
Mm-hmm.
And we produce that show, and I have learned so much about managing my money just by listening to your podcast. So
very cool. Glad you're enjoying it. It's a lot of fun for us. So
So that's Kitchen Table Finance as the podcast and can be heard wherever.
Yeah, wherever you listen to your podcast. Yeah, or at their website, which is srbadvisors.com.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very cool. Awesome. There you go. So, Nick, tell us more about you and your role.
Yeah, so I am a financial planner / partner here at SRB Advisors. I am coming up on, I know you guys are going to be shocked by this, but it will be my 20th year in the business next year. Wow. So yes, I started at 10. Bet you didn't know they allowed you to financial plan at 10. So looking forward to that. I'm a certified financial planner. I have been since 2011. As far as Shotwell Rutter Baer goes, there are 7 of us now. We just hired a new associate advisor out of Michigan State's wealth management program, so we're excited about that. One of the big things that we're working on is growing the industry and being just a great place for young planners to kind of learn how to become a financial planner. And Dave and I both had interesting tracks into this career, and so we always wanted to give back and have a place where people could learn without the pressure of like having to sell and be sales forward. And we have a term in the industry called eat what you kill, and we wanted to provide a place where you could learn before you had to go out and do the sales thing. So we're excited about that, and that's been going well. Ashley Sager, who's been with us for 2 years, was our first associate advisor, and then we have a new one, Cole Williams, who's starting here July 1st.
And did they both come out of the internship program that you have?
Yes. Yep. So we have an internship program. We started it during the pandemic, which was interesting. We made it work. And then now we have a fall intern and a spring intern every year. So if anybody's listening that wants an internship in a financial planning firm, be sure to email me or check out our website for more details on that. But we'll be looking to hire another intern here in the fall for next spring. So
Okay.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
So you had an interesting introduction to financial planning. Why did you choose this industry, or did it choose you? I'm curious to hear that story.
yeah. So I like to say it chose me. So I grew up in Spring Lake, Michigan, which is, if you've ever been to Grand Haven, it's this beautiful little town that you drive through to get to Grand Haven, right? And the interesting thing about Spring Lake, where the tagline was "Where nature smiles for 7 miles," is lots of wealth kind of concentrated on the lake. Like we used to watch them tear down mansions to build bigger ones, which is always interesting. And so one of the things that I learned growing up and in high school was just because some families had a lot more money than other families didn't necessarily translate to a happier existence. And that's something that always kind of struck me as super interesting and intriguing about money. And so when I was 17 and deciding where to go to college and what to study, I decided to study financial management for the sole purpose of I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I chose to go to Northern Michigan because it's probably as far away from home as you could get and still pay in-state tuition. And then my dad and stepmother at the time were therapists and still are they have their MSWs and they do couples and families therapy and things like that. And so I kind of figured like, okay, finance is numbers and it's concrete and it's probably as far away from like therapy as one could get, right? the brilliant decisions of a 17-year-old planning his future. So I went to Northern Michigan and I studied for 4 years financial management and also economics. Graduated in 2005, and kind of at the time I had a daughter who was turning 1, and just kind of wanted to stay in Michigan. And there wasn't a lot of like corporate finance jobs at the time because the auto industry and kind of 2008 was already happening in Michigan at that time, and so. I finally got a job in a financial planning firm, which really kind of turned out to be a life insurance firm where they wanted you to sell life insurance to your families and friends and relatives. And so that, kind of didn't work out very well. I did that for about 9 months. Then I worked at a bank for about 2 years, ran a credit union program for about 7 years. About halfway through that credit union program, I went to a conference and a couple of really important things in my life happened. I was kind of at that point in my career where I didn't really like financial planning because it was really, the way that we were doing it was selling things to people, right? And that wasn't really I wasn't passionate about that. And so we watched the TED Talk of Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I don't know if you've seen that.
Love it.
Fantastic. And, the whole premise is you need to tell people why you do what you do, not what or how, but why. And I just kind of started reflecting back on my experience growing up with money and also like where I was in my career and why I was there. And it just kind of dawned on me, like, I can't go out and tell people I'm doing this because I don't have any better options, right? Like, this is like my default career. I don't really want to do this, but that's why I'm here, is because I didn't have anything better to do, right? Like, that's not going to instill confidence. And so one of the other videos that we watched was a guy by the name of Mitch Anthony, which was one of the founders of what we call financial life planning. And so his big thing was, you need to work with people to get a better return on life, not a better return on their money. And so it kind of dawned on me, like, here I am, and I've been helping people like grow their portfolios and make more interest, but I haven't really gotten to the root of like what money is. And I knew growing up in Spring Lake that money didn't make you happier, and more money certainly didn't make you happier. And so, like, what is that disconnect, and how do we kind of have those conversations around what's most important to you? And then maybe we figure out how we utilize the resources that you have to help you achieve the best life possible, right? And so that kind of started my journey down financial life planning, and really having conversations with clients about what's most important to them. What do you want to accomplish, and how do we use money to get you where you want to be, right? And so that's really kind of what led me to start my own business in 2015, and then ultimately merge with Dave Shotwell and join Shotwell Rutter Baer, and really be able to kind of have those conversations with clients and deliver those kind of financial plans where we're helping people figure out like what's most important to you. What do you really want to get out of life, and how do we help you do that now, but also like, 20 or 30 years from now, right? Like, what's that balance point of, hey, we want to live exciting, amazing lives right now, but also we can't forget about the future, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we balance all that, and how do we deliver for you what you need now, but also plan for being able to do that in the future?
You're on mute, Amy.
I know. You have a pretty unique way that you walk clients through figuring these things out, called the strategic reliable blueprint. Do you want to talk a bit about how you do that?
Yeah, so when I came over to Shotwell Rutter Baer, Dave and I really kind of thought about our process and how we wanted to bring clients in and create a financial plan for them. So we created the strategic reliable blueprint, and it's got a couple of different elements to it. It is usually 5 or 6 meetings, just depending on what the client needs are. But the first 3 meetings, we are really just sitting down with people and asking them questions and trying to help them figure out like what's most important to you. And it seems like that should be able to be accomplished in like one meeting, or most people like come in with this idea of what they want to do. But what we find, and what was kind of shocking to me, is that most people don't spend very much time thinking about that, right? Like, we do retirement planning, and a lot of people come to us at retirement age, and here they've saved money for 30 years throughout their retirement. They've got all this money, and they spent all this time thinking about saving for retirement, but they spend about 5 minutes thinking about what that looks like, what they want to do in retirement, or what it means to them. And so having this process that we take them through, we actually spend 3-hour-long meetings just going through and figuring out what's important to you. How do we prioritize all those things? So like, what's at the top of your list? What's, like, we call it the fun to, like, yeah, sure, it'd be great to have a house on Lake Michigan. That would be fun, but I don't need that as a part of my life to be like, to do what I want to do. And then from there, we go into what we call our obstacles, which is essentially like what's getting in your way. Like, why aren't you doing this stuff now? Or what's going to prevent you from doing this in the future? And we walk through that. And then from there, our team in the background helps people get organized and make sure we have all of your statements, all of your financial information, so you know what you have and why you have it. And then we go into what we call our strategy meeting, which is where we put all of your financial information into our planning software. And then we start talking about your goals, and we kind of merge those things, right? Like, okay, here's all the things you said you wanted to do. Here's what your finances will allow you to do. Let's start moving stuff around and thinking through, like, okay, if I retired 2 years earlier, what does that mean, right? If I work 2 years later, what does that mean? Until we come up with what our client feels is the best situation for them. And then we go into what we call our build meeting, which is we're building those concrete recommendations of, okay, based on the life that you want to live, based on the resources you have, here's exactly what you should do with this account. Here's how you should think about your insurance. Here's how taxes play into that. Here's how retirement savings and retirement dates all play into that. And so then we're having a really good conversation around like, here's all the things that we need to do in order to implement your plan. And then from there, we help our clients implement their plan. And lo and behold, the funny thing about life and financial planning is it's constantly changing, right? And so we're always there rerunning and updating plans, and then also looking at goals and how they've changed and how things are different and how that affects things, right? And so you can make decisions and have that resource that can help you think through all those things and what the ramifications are, and helping you for the majority of our clients, it's helping you make sure that you're okay with spending that money or doing that thing that you want to do, and it's going to be okay, right?
Nice. What a great way to have a process and a plan to help people really think about their futures. And I know, people don't think about it. They're not thinking. So it didn't surprise me when you asked that question, that people just weren't certain, weren't sure. So when they are not sure, how do you help them think through that? Is there any prompting questions? Do you like save that for the next meeting? How does that go?
So we kind of start out by getting as wide as possible. And what I mean by that is like anything you've ever thought about doing, like throw it out there, throw it on the wall. Let's talk about all of those things. And then, sometimes people have a lot of ideas and sometimes they only have a couple ideas, and that's fine. But from there, we use George Kinder's 3 questions. And they are just a series of questions to kind of distill things down to what's really most important to you, right? And so I am a registered life planner with the Kinder Institute, which just means that I went through their training with George and became a certified or registered life planner to help people, walk people through these questions in this process. And so the 3 questions are, the first one kind of starts out with, if you had all the money you ever needed, right? What would you do differently? How would you, spend your time? And don't hold back and just throw everything out there. And then from there, we go into the second question is, you go to the doctor and he tells you, or they tell you, that you have a terminal illness and you've got 5 to 10 years left to live. And you don't know when you're going to pass, and you're not going to feel sick. But think about, like, what would you do in that time? Like, how would you change your life, and what things kind of arise when you think about your very real mortality? And then the last question goes into, you go back to the doctor and they say, this is it. This is your last day. And so instead of like thinking about, hey, what am I going to do today? Think about like, what did you miss? What did you not get to do? Who did you not get to be? And, what are some of the regrets that you have? And really kind of thinking through like, okay, if I wasn't able to, for example, I'll use myself as, seeing my kids graduate high school and college and seeing them, get married and do all those things. Like that's a huge regret of mine, not being able to watch them grow up. Right. And the reality of that is like, there's no guarantee that I'm going to be there. Right. But how do I, knowing that's so important to me, what do I do every single day to make sure that there's no regrets in that relationship? Like, what are the relationship that I have with my kids? What is the time that we're spending together to make sure that, if I don't live until they accomplish those things, that I don't, look back and say, man, I wish I would have spent more time with them. Right. And so that's how, like, building the life plan around making sure that I can do those things. And so those are just some of the things that come up, but that's been really helpful for clients to think around like, okay, what is really most important to me? And what do I want to make sure I accomplish? And how do I make sure that, financially or non-financially, I'm able to do those things. Right. And so one of the things that I did when I started my business, and I still do it to some degree today, is I took Fridays off in the summer when my kids were younger, because, I wanted to be able to do things with them. And, Michigan, not only Lansing, but Michigan in general, has so many great things that you can do. And so we called them Fridads, and we just go on an adventure, and we'd go to the beach, or we'd go to a museum or a park or whatever, and just have that time. And that, I knew that they were going to get older and they weren't going to want to hang out with me, and they were going to have their own friends and
Yeah.
own things to do. So I wanted to make sure I did that when they wanted to, and we could. And so that was one of the big kind of learning lessons of me going through this process as well. So, that's somewhat financially related, right? Like taking a day off of work might impact your income. And so we have to, work with clients and think through, like, how do we make this happen? How do we make sure that we can do this, and also make sure that we can still have enough money to pay the bills, but also save for the future?
Mm-hmm. I love it. And, for the listeners, if you did not write those 3 questions down, that was liquid gold right there. That was
Right.
in a nutshell. Think about those in process, because we don't think of it in
Yeah.
that fashion. And I love that last one, the
Mm-hmm.
whole, yes, we don't want regrets, but what did you miss out on by not
Mm,
thinking about these things? It doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
going to jump right into investing yet, but it's just at least get your thoughts going. So thank you for sharing those questions, because
Yeah.
I think those were really, really powerful. And I love the how did you say that? Fry
Fridays.
heads.
I did. Nice.
It's like he's a
Seems like a whole
fraud heads. We're gonna have
movement.
some fraud
Yeah.
heads.
Yeah. Yeah. You could start a whole
But
movement with a
That's
hashtag.
right.
it's just but those things are so important. And when you plan, right? When you plan for these
Mm-hmm.
things and you think about them, they can become a possibility. Anything's a possibility,
Oh
and bring it
yeah.
into reality. I
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love that. So when you started thinking about I would just some of the most interesting things that people desire. What do you think would be the most interesting thing that you've heard during
Good
these
question.
questions?
Ooh, that is a good question. You know, we've had quite a few. I know I've had some people like who were musically inclined, and
Mm,
were kind of stuck in work mode and not being able to like experience that creative side of things. A lot of it goes to, comes back to like kids and children and things like that. Um, and so those are probably like the biggest ones that we see, the most interesting
Yeah.
ones. I haven't had anybody be like, I need to quit my job tomorrow kind of thing. But, we've gotten close to some of those things, and, but usually there's a couple of different key things that always come up, right? One of the most common ones is relationships, right? Like the
Mhm.
relationships that we have, and how we're
Mhm.
making sure that if those are important to us, we're following through on that. And we live in this busy world where there's so much going on, and you can be busy all the time. And if you don't stop and think about like, okay, these are the things that are important to me, these are the relationships that are important to me, that can really, you sneak up on you when your kids grow, and time keeps moving
Mhm.
faster and faster. So relationships are a big one. Creativity is a big one. Place where you live and
Mhm.
in your community is a big one as well. So I would say those are probably the 3 biggest ones that we see come out of that third question.
Well, as a certified life planner, I'm not sure you got as far away from therapy as you probably were originally intending
Yeah.
to, right? Probably
that's
a lot
that's
goes
yeah.
into that. Yeah.
That's always the joke, right? Like I tried
Right.
to get out of the family business, so they sucked me right back
Right.
in, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, oddly enough, money is one of the most emotional things out there. It's
Mhm.
high, near the top or at the top of the list of the reason for divorces and
Yep.
stress and strain. And so, obviously at 17, I didn't realize that, but now that I, am much older than 17, I have a good understanding of how that plays into it. And honestly, I wouldn't do anything differently in terms of like how we work with and talk to,
Mhm.
clients. And, some people call it financial therapy to some degree. And there's a little element of that to it, right? Like we spend a lot of
Mhm.
time dealing with behavioral finance issues of like, why do you make these decisions? Why do you do the things that you do? And that's a lot of that's therapy based, right? And just thinking about how the mind
Mhm.
works and why. So
Mhm.
Yeah. So as a financial planner and a fiduciary, so no fees,
mhm.
or fee based, not
Yes.
commission, right? Make that distinction. I'm sure that there are probably a lot of people out there and listeners who don't really understand when they should probably hire somebody like you.
Mm.
They're probably working away, putting stuff into a 401k, saving money, doing that things, but maybe don't have even a great handle on how much money they've accumulated, when they can afford to retire, and that kind of thing. So can you talk a little bit about like when, either age-wise or career-wise, like when is a good time to engage your company?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I will tell you is there's a disconnect between when I think people should come seek us out and when they actually do, right? Like most of our clients are usually coming on board when they're 2 to 5 years out from retirement, right? Like they're in that phase where like, okay, it's getting real. I have all this money and I want to retire, but I don't know how to make all this money I save turn into retirement. And so that's usually when they seek us out. But what I wish and hope is that they would come younger and younger, right? So we have clients in their 20s and 30s, but it's a very small side of the spectrum. And part of the problem with that is the industry in general, in that most financial planners get paid by the size of the investments that you have, right? And so the problem with that is if you're 20 years old and you don't have, you're just starting out, just saving money for retirement, how do you get good, solid advice, right? Like, where do you go? And so we are a part of a group of financial planners. It's called XY Planning Network. And we have all kind of agreed that we are going to offer what's called a more of a subscription-based planning model, right? So we don't charge on the investments per se, but we allow people to pay for our services in a subscription so that you don't have to have $500,000 or $1 million to work with a financial professional. You can pay them on a monthly subscription, which a lot of times ends up being less than your cable bill, right? And so like that's a way to engage at a much younger age where you can get good quality advice from a certified financial planner, because there's a lot of things that you should be thinking about and dealing with in your 20s that will make your 50s and 60s that much more successful. But there's been this kind of disconnect between being able to get that advice and, where you're at in life.
So how does one become a member of the subscription? Is that on your website? Do they meet with you first and that's where you determine that would be the best place for them? How does that work, please?
Yeah, so we have so anybody that reaches out to us either on the website or via email, we offer an intro call, which is just a meeting with one of our associate advisors, just to kind of explain who we are and how it works and things like that. And then we also offer what's called a fit meeting, which is typically with me, where we just kind of go through and figure out, like, is it a good fit for you? Is it a good fit for us? And that's where we kind of determine, okay, if you are younger and maybe you don't have a bunch of money saved for retirement yet, or maybe it's in your 401k at work, so it's hard to get advice on it, we can then offer a more subscription-based model where we can help you do the planning side of things, but we're not necessarily engaging in investment management.
Very cool. What a great opportunity for people that are, like you said, they might not have the money or whatever that looks like, and they're not ready, but it gives them opportunities to get ready. And then I'm guessing they can pull out of that subscription when time is right. And that fit has now changed, because I think we worry about telling somebody no, not yet, but if it's not in their best interest to jump into this relationship, let's get you there. Let's put some tools in your path to get you there.
Yeah, that's a big thing for us too. Like, if it's not in your best interest, one of the things that we often will do for prospective clients is help find them an advisor who's also a fiduciary that also will help them. That might be a better fit for them, right? Like, A, there's stuff that we don't know, that we don't have knowledge and expertise in, but B, sometimes from a client standpoint, from where you're at or what you're trying to do, there's other financial planners that might be a better fit for you. So we refer a lot of potential clients out to other planners where it makes more sense.
Right.
I love collaboration. I'm sorry. I was just saying, I love the fact that you collaborate. I think that is so huge. That whole protecting ourselves is not in the best interest of the people. And that's what I'm hearing from you, Nick, today. It's all about the people. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to say before we wrap up here that one of the things that Shotwell Rutter Baer does specialize in is MSU employees, Michigan State employees, and their retirement funds and the benefits that they get. You guys know all of that inside and out and are able to help people maximize that stuff and maybe do more with that retirement package than they realize they can. So I think that's important to say.
Yeah, we have a great relationship with Michigan State, and we work with a lot of their employees. And the nice part about it is we can engage with them before they retire, to kind of help them out with planning and investing in their 403(b) accounts. But also because we have so many of those clients, we stay up to date on the changes in the employee benefits and all that thing, and how that plays into it. And so it's been a really good relationship for us. We have a lot of those clients that are, looking to retire, or even, younger, getting started and figuring out what they should be doing. And so that's been a great kind of collaboration for us, of making sure that we understand that and stay on top of it, so that we can come to clients and let them know, hey, this is changing. We need to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
absolutely. One of the things I really like that you do in your podcast every month is that you do a news headline roundup, which is great because we're all always looking for ways to save time. And you and Dave go through some of the top financial headlines and topics that people are talking about, and you kind of break them down and give your take on them and tips and stuff, so that we don't have to spend the time reading all those articles. And I think that's really valuable. I really enjoy that you do that every month. That's really nice. And then you also have a nice roundup kind of with that, with your email newsletter that you guys put out. So I just want to put that out for our listeners. Like, if you want to just get up on more, be better with your finances and get tips, it's called Kitchen Table Finance, because it's like bite-sized information. It's all very easy to understand. And then their newsletter for sure. And you can all find that on their website.
For sure. Yeah. That's one of our favorite segments. It just kind of came around, Dave and I do a lot of reading in the financial world, and we'd always kind of have conversations around it. We're like, people should probably listen to our take on this, because in order to get published in the, Wall Street Journal or New York Times, a lot of times you have to say outlandish things. And so sometimes there's always a good point behind it, but it's hard to, get into the details of why it may or may not be the right fit for you. And so that's a really fun segment for us.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Is there anything? Go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, I was just going to say, is there anything that we haven't asked you about that you would like to share with the listeners?
I just, the one thing that's kind of been weighing on our minds, and this is something that we've been doing for a long time, but that is, one of the reasons why I came over to Shotwell Rutter Baer was we are fee-only financial planners. And what that means is we are fiduciaries to our clients at all times and all situations. And we will put it in writing. We put it in writing for all of our clients and all of our prospective clients, because it's super important to us. And one of the problems that we see it in this industry is not everybody is held up to that same standard. And so one of the things that we're trying to do, one of the XYPN group that we're a part of actually sued the SEC as a part of this, but it's just really important to us that if you're getting financial advice from someone, it should be on a fiduciary level. And so we're really kind of trying to push the industry forward on, hey, if we're doing financial planning, we're doing retirement planning, it should be on a fiduciary level. It shouldn't be anything different. And so that's something that we're passionate about. It's important to us. And I think more people need to know and understand that that's not always the case. And that's not to say that there shouldn't be advisors selling products out there. It should just be disclosed as, hey, this isn't advice, this is sales, right? You go to a lawyer's office, you assume that they're going to have your best interest, or a doctor, right? And we want to move the financial planning profession in that same way. So,
yeah. So just for
I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, but just for some clarification for our listeners, so fiduciary means that you're fee-based and that you always have their best interest in mind, as opposed to some who are selling you a product where they get a commission based on how much or what they sell you. right? So that's
Yeah,
the
so this is
difference. Okay.
so this is confused. Fee only is we only get paid by our clients. We don't get any kickbacks from insurance companies, investment companies, and we never do. We refuse to take any sort of commission or kickback, right? So where it gets confusing is you have what people will say fee-based, and that is depending on the account you have, it might be a fee-based account, but not all of that advice that you're getting from that advisor is on a fiduciary level, just that specific account.
Okay.
And then you have the commission base, which is we earn a commission by selling you a certain product, or that can be an investment product, can be an insurance product. And so we have taken, we're members of the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, and we've taken their oath, which is that we will always be fiduciaries. We will never take commissions or kickbacks of any kind.
Okay. Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah.
I know it's confusing. We're working on it.
No, that's a very good explanation. But I think when anybody gets into using a financial advisor or thinking more about their money, there's just lots of options out there, and that's a really important distinction to make.
And the big thing is just understanding them, right? Like,
right.
There's lots of good advisors out there. You just need to understand
what you're paying
how they're
for
getting paid,
and,
what you're paying. Like
Mhm.
we publish all that stuff on our website, so people know exactly what they're going to be charged because it's on our website, right?
Right.
And there's no other ways that we get compensated, so it's fairly straightforward.
Cool. All right. Well, we like to ask this question before we wrap up. Nick, is there anybody in our listening area that you would like to be connected with that maybe some of our listeners can help out with?
Yeah, I'm going to put a pretty general one out there, but I am what's my title? Vice President this year of the Greater Lansing Estate Planning Council. So if our listeners know any estate planning attorneys, tax professionals, financial planners, we have a great group of us. There's about 80, and we're trying to grow that group. We have 6 meetings on the second Tuesday of every month during the fall, winter months. And we're trying to grow that group, and we're trying to get more collaboration here in Lansing. And so I would love an introduction to anybody who is interested in potentially becoming a member of the Greater Lansing Estate Planning Council.
Okay. And would it be the best way for them to get hold of you maybe by email?
Yep, email, or we have a website, GLEPC, GLEPC.org, that they can check out if they want more information on the organization.
Okay. And your email is nick@srbadvisors.com. So
it is Nauta at SRB Advisors.
Oh, I'm sorry. Nauta.
That's all right.
I only email you every day. I should know.
The joys of auto email.
Right. Yeah. But but as always, we'll have the links to that in the show notes for this episode. And
perfect.
Like I said, you can just go right to their website. Great. Well, Nick, This has been great having you on the show.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Great seeing both of you as well. I appreciate it. This was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. And to our listeners, thanks again for joining us on another Adventures in Business. We release new episodes every Wednesday. You can find us at zediamedia.com or wherever you listen to your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, please go out and make it an adventure.